The war was over. At least, that is what the Galactic Council believed. Inside the largest hall ever built in the galaxy, bright lights shined from every corner. The ceiling was so high that it disappeared into shadows. Tall pillars of white stone stood like silent guards, and between them floated glowing blue holograms showing scenes of celebration across many worlds. Today was a day of victory. Alien leaders from hundreds of planets had gathered here. Some were tall and thin, others small and covered in scales or fur. Each one had come to witness the end of the most dangerous war in galactic history, and the end of humanity. Music echoed through the chamber, soft at first, then louder, a symbol of peace, a symbol of triumph. They had won, or so they thought. At the center of the hall stood High Chancellor Viral. His long silver robes flowed behind him as he slowly raised his hand. The room began to quiet down. One by one, voices faded. All eyes turned toward him. "Today," Viral began, his voice calm but proud, "we celebrate the fall of the species that threatened the balance of our galaxy." A wave of agreement moved through the crowd. "Humans," he continued, "were unpredictable, aggressive, dangerous. They refused peace. They refused logic." Some leaders nodded. Others whispered to each other. "They fought even when defeat was certain," Viral said. "Even when surrounded, even when outnumbered, they did not surrender." For a moment, there was silence. Then Viral lifted his head higher. "But now they are gone." The chamber exploded with sound. Cheers, clapping, relief. After years of war, it was finally over. Human fleets had been destroyed, their colonies burned. Earth itself had gone silent. No signals, no movement, nothing. Victory. But not everyone was celebrating. At the far edge of the hall stood General Kale. He did not clap. He did not smile. He simply watched. Kale was not like the others. His face was hard, marked by years of battle. His uniform was dark, simple, and worn. He had seen things most in this room could not understand. He had fought humans, and he knew something was wrong. His mind went back to the final battle. It had taken place near the edge of human space. The Council had sent everything they had. Thousands of ships, advanced weapons, endless numbers. Victory should have been easy, but it wasn't. Humans fought differently. They didn't retreat. They didn't panic. Even when their ships were destroyed, they stayed in position. Kale remembered watching one human ship, heavily damaged, drifting in space. Its engines were gone, weapons offline. Still, it did not surrender. Instead, it moved forward, slowly, directly toward enemy lines. And then, it exploded, taking dozens of ships with it. Kale had seen many battles, but never like that. What troubled him most was not their actions. It was their faces. In the final moments, when defeat was clear, the humans did not look afraid. They looked calm. Some even smiled. Kale's eyes narrowed as he looked around the celebrating chamber. "Why?" he whispered to himself. "Why would a species act like that if they had already lost?" Suddenly, a sharp sound cut through the air. An alarm. Loud, piercing. Red lights flashed across the hall. The music stopped instantly. Voices turned into confused murmurs. "What is happening?" one leader asked. "Is this part of the ceremony?" another said. But Kale already knew. This was not celebration. This was something else. The massive doors at the far end of the chamber burst open. A soldier rushed in. He was out of breath, panicked. His uniform was damaged, as if he had come straight from battle. "Chancellor," he shouted. The entire room turned toward him. Viral frowned. "This is not the time. Speak carefully." The soldier tried to steady himself, but his voice still shook. We have an emergency report." A silence fell over the chamber. Viral's expression darkened. "From where?" "Sector 9 and multiple other war zones." Kale stepped forward slightly, listening closely. "What kind of report?" Viral asked. The soldier hesitated, as if he did not want to say it, as if saying it would make it real. Then finally, he spoke. "The dead are moving." For a moment, no one reacted. The words hung in the air. Strange. Impossible. "What did you say?" Viral asked slowly. The The soldier swallowed. We confirmed it. Multiple times. Human bodies on the battlefield. They are getting back up. A wave of disbelief spread through the chamber. That's impossible, one scientist said. Dead means dead. Another added, this must be a mistake. But the soldier shook his head. No mistake. We have visual confirmation. A hologram flickered to life in the center of the room. The image showed a battlefield. Dark, silent, covered in bodies. Human bodies. Still, unmoving. Then, one of them twitched. A small movement, barely noticeable. Then another, and another. Slowly, one body pushed itself up. Its movements were weak, broken, but it stood. Gasps filled the chamber. More bodies began to move. Some crawled, some stood, some dragged themselves forward. They were dead, but they were not still. The celebration was gone, replaced by fear. General Kale stared at the hologram. His face did not change. But inside, everything became clear. This is not over, he said quietly. And in that moment, the entire galaxy began to understand the truth. They had not won. They had only just begun to lose. The celebration was gone. No music, no smiles, no victory, only silence. The Galactic Council chamber, once filled with joy, now felt cold and heavy. Red warning lights slowly flashed across the tall white pillars. The blue holograms of celebration had disappeared, replaced by emergency signals. Every leader stood still, watching, waiting, afraid. At the center of the hall, the battlefield hologram continued to play. No one looked away. They couldn't. They needed to understand. The image zoomed in. A human soldier lay on the ground. His armor was broken, his body still, dead. There was no doubt, no breathing, no movement. Nothing. Then his hand moved, slowly, a small twitch, as if something inside him was waking up. Gasps spread across the chamber. That's not possible, one scientist whispered. The soldier's fingers curled. His arm pushed against the ground. With a slow, unnatural motion, he lifted himself up, his head tilted to one side, not like a living being, like something broken. Then he stood. A leader stepped back in fear. What is this? Before anyone could answer, more bodies began to move. Dozens, then hundreds, across the battlefield, all rising. Some were missing limbs. Some had deep wounds. Some should not have been able to move at all, but they did. They're not alive, another scientist said, his voice shaking. This is not life. This is something else. General Kale stepped closer to the hologram, his eyes focused, studying every movement, every detail. They are not acting randomly, he said quietly. The room turned toward him. What do you mean? Chancellor Viral asked. Kale pointed at the image. Look at their direction. The hologram shifted again. A wide view of the battlefield appeared. Thousands of human bodies, now standing, now moving, all in the same direction. They are not confused, Kale said. They know where they're going. A cold feeling spread through the room. Where? Someone asked. Kale did not answer immediately. He simply watched. Then, finally, toward us. The chamber fell silent again. At that exact moment, another alarm sounded. Louder, more urgent. A second officer rushed in. This one looked even worse. His armor was burned, his face filled with fear. Chancellor, he shouted, we are receiving reports from all sectors. Viral turned sharply. Speak. It's happening everywhere, the officer said. Every battlefield, every fallen human, they are rising. Murmurs turned into panic. No, this cannot be, one leader said. We destroyed them all, another shouted. But the officer shook his head. They are not gone, he said. They are coming back. The holograms around the chamber changed. New images appeared. Different planets, different battlefields. But the same scene. Everywhere. Dead humans rising, moving, advancing. One video showed an alien outpost. Soldiers stood ready, weapons aimed, nervous, waiting. From the dark horizon, shapes appeared. Slow, unsteady, then clearer. Humans, broken, but walking. Fire, a commander shouted. Energy weapons lit up the night. Bright blasts hit the approaching figures. Some fell, some were destroyed completely, but many did not stop. They kept coming. Step by step, one alien soldier backed away. This isn't normal, he whispered. They should be down. Then one of the humans reached him. Fast, too fast. The screen cut. The chamber was now filled with quiet fear. No one spoke. No one moved. This is not war, one scientist said slowly. This is something else. General Kale crossed his arms. This is strategy, he said. All eyes turned to him again. Humans planned this, Kale continued. They knew they would lose. That makes no sense, Vera replied. Why fight if they knew defeat was certain? Kale looked directly at him. Because this is not defeat. A deep silence followed. They are not trying to survive, Kale said. They are trying to continue. The meaning of his words slowly reached the others. You mean, one leader began. Yes, Kale said. They planned something after death. The idea was terrifying. No species would do that. A scientist argued. Death is the end. Kale shook his head. For us, yes. He paused. But not for them. Another hologram appeared. This one showed space. A destroyed human fleet. Floating wreckage. Silent. Then, movement. Pieces of ships began to shift. Lights flickered. Systems came online. Even the ships were not fully dead. They're activating again, an officer said in disbelief. Kale's expression grew darker. This is bigger than we thought, he said. Viral stepped back slowly. For the first time, fear showed on his face. What have they done? He whispered. No one had an answer, but deep inside, they all felt it. This was not the end of humanity. This was something new, something unknown, something unstoppable. And far away, across the silent battlefields of the galaxy, the dead continued to rise, step by step, getting closer. The galaxy did not celebrate anymore. There were no songs, no lights, no victory, only fear. Across hundreds of systems, emergency signals spread like fire. Every allied world of the Galactic Council received the same message. All forces on high alert. Unknown threat confirmed. Engage immediately. But it was already too late. On the outer edges of the galaxy, the first outpost began to fall. At Station R-17, a small defense base near a dead human colony. Soldiers stood ready behind heavy walls. Their weapons were charged. Their shields were active. They were prepared. Or at least, they thought they were. Movement detected. One guard said. The commander stepped forward. Show me. A screen lit up. At first, it looked empty. Just a dark, silent landscape. Then, shapes. Slow. Unsteady. Walking out of the fog. The commander narrowed his eyes. Are those? Yes, the guard whispered. Humans. The soldiers aimed their weapons. Hold positions, the commander ordered. Wait until they are closer. The figures moved forward, step by step. No rush, no fear. As they came closer, the truth became clear. These were not living soldiers. Their armor was broken, their bodies damaged. Some dragged their legs. Some moved with unnatural angles. But they did not stop. Fire! Energy blasts lit up the darkness. Bright beams struck the front line of advancing humans. Several fell instantly, burned, destroyed. Direct hits confirmed, a soldier said. But then, something impossible happened. The fallen bodies began to move again. One pushed itself up with broken arm. Another dragged itself forward with only half a body. They're still moving, someone shouted. The commander's voice rose. Keep firing. Do not let them reach the wall. More blasts, more destruction, but it did not matter. For every one that fell, another step forward. They did not slow down. They did not change direction. They only moved ahead. Relentless. They don't feel pain, a soldier said, stepping back. They don't fear death. No, the commander replied quietly. They already died. The first of them reached the outer barrier. And then they did something unexpected. They did not attack. They did not strike. They simply kept walking, straight into the barrier. Their bodies burned as they touched the energy field. But they did not stop. They kept pushing forward. More followed, more bodies pressing against the shield. The barrier began to flicker. "They're overloading it," the guard shouted. The commander's eyes widened. "They're using themselves." The shield failed. In one sudden flash, the barrier collapsed. The dead entered the base. And then the screams began. Far away, similar scenes played out across the galaxy. Outposts fell. Cities went silent. Entire fleets vanished. The reports came faster than the council could process. They are everywhere. They don't stop. They don't retreat. Inside the Galactic Council chamber, the tension had reached its limit. Leaders argued loudly now. Fear turned into anger. "This is your fault," one shouted. "You said they were defeated." "We destroyed their fleets," another replied. This was not predicted. "Then predict it now," a third leader yelled. "Before we all die." At the center, Chancellor Viral struggled to maintain control. "Silence," he shouted. But no one listened. Only one figure remained calm. General Kale. He stood still, watching the incoming reports, watching the patterns. "They are not attacking randomly," he said. His voice was quiet, but strong. Slowly, the room began to quiet again. "What do you mean?" Viral asked. Kale activated a large holographic map. The galaxy appeared. Bright points marked different systems. Red signals began to flash. One by one. "These are attack zones," Kale explained. The red points formed a pattern, a path. "They are moving in lines," Kale said. "Not spreading, not exploring." "Then what are they doing?" someone asked. Kale zoomed in. The lines all pointed in one direction, toward the center, toward the capital, toward the Galactic Council. "They are coming here," Kale said. A deep silence filled the room. "That is impossible," one leader whispered, the distance alone. "They don't need to rest," Kale interrupted. "They don't need supplies. They don't need fear." He looked around the room. "They only need direction." A cold realization spread through every mind. "This is not war," Kale continued. "This is a march." "A march," Viral repeated. "Yes," Kale said. "A march to the end." At that moment, another signal arrived. A high-priority transmission. All outer defense lines have fallen. The room froze. "They are advancing faster than expected. How long until they reach us?" Viral asked. No one answered at first. Then Kale spoke. "Soon." The word echoed like a death sentence. Far across space, countless dead figures continued their slow advance. Through fire, through destruction, through everything. They did not stop. They did not break. They only moved forward. And for the first time in history, the galaxy understood true fear. Because this enemy was already dead, the fear had changed. Before it was loud, now it was quiet. Inside the Galactic Council chamber, no one argued anymore. No one shouted. The panic had burned out, leaving behind something worse. Understanding. They were not fighting a normal enemy. They were facing something they did not understand. Chancellor Viral stood still, staring at the glowing galaxy map. Red signals continued to spread, slowly closing in. Every second they came closer. "How?" Viral finally asked. His voice was softer now. Not proud, not strong, just unsure. General Kale did not answer immediately. He was looking at a different screen. Old data, recovered files, human records. They left something behind. Kale said. A scientist stepped forward. "We have been scanning human systems for hours. Most of their data was destroyed." "Most," Kale repeated. He turned the screen toward the room. A broken file appeared. Corrupted, incomplete, but not all. The scientist frowned. "What is it?" Kale pressed a control. The file began to play. At first, there was only static. Then, a human face appeared. The room grew still. It was a man, calm, serious, wearing a simple uniform. Behind him, the background was dark. No signs of panic. No signs of war. Just silence. The man looked directly into the recording. "If you are seeing this," he said, "then we have already fallen." No one in the chamber moved. The human continued. "We know we cannot win this war." A wave of quiet shock passed through the room. But this was never about winning. Kale's eyes narrowed slightly. This was about something else. The human paused. "You believe death is the end." The image flickered slightly. "We do not." The recording glitched. For a moment, the screen almost went black. Then it returned. "Humans have always feared death," the man said. "But fear leads to discovery." The scientist watching whispered, "What does that mean?" Kale did not respond. He kept watching. "We studied it," the human continued. "We tested it. We pushed beyond every limit." Images flashed briefly on the screen. Laboratories, experiments, strange symbols. "We learned something important." The man leaned closer. "Death is not a wall." The room felt colder. "It is a door." Silence. A leader stepped back. "No." The human's voice remained calm. "We created a system. Not a weapon. Not a machine." Another pause. A continuation. The recording began to break apart, but the voice continued. "When the body fails, something else begins." The screen flickered harder now. "It is not life as you know it." The human's face started to distort. "But it is enough." The scientist shook his head. "This is impossible." Kale finally spoke. "No," he said quietly. "It is happening." The human in the recording gave a small, almost sad smile. "You thought defeating us would end the war." The image froze for a second. "You were wrong." The screen went black. The recording ended. No one spoke. The silence was heavy. "What did they do?" Viral asked slowly. Kale turned back to the galaxy map. The red signals were closer now, closer than before. "They changed the rules," he said. The scientist stepped forward again. This could be some kind of biological trigger, something that activates after death." "But how?" another asked. "That level of control is beyond known science." Kale crossed his arms. "Humans don't follow limits," he said. The room remained still. "They didn't try to survive," Kale continued. "They prepared for this." "For what?" Viral asked. Kale looked at him. "For after they lost." The meaning of those words settled deeply into the room. "They turned themselves into this?" one leader whispered. "Yes," Kale said. "But why?" another asked. "What is the purpose?" Kale paused, then answered. "Revenge." The word echoed, not loud, but powerful. "They knew they would fall," Kale said. "So they made sure the war would not end." The scientist stepped back, shaken. "This is not war anymore." "No," Kale agreed. "This is something final." Another alarm sounded. All eyes turned to the main screen. A new report appeared. Outer defense line destroyed. The room held its breath. Second defense line collapsing. Viral's hands tightened. "How long?" he asked. Kale looked at the data, then gave the answer. "They are accelerating." A pause. "They are learning." That was the worst part. Even in death, they were adapting. "They will reach us," Kale said. "When?" Kale looked up. "Very soon." Far across the galaxy, the dead continued their march. Not random, not lost, guided by something deeper than life. And for the first time, the Galactic Council understood the truth. Humanity had not made a last stand. They had made a last plan. The end was no longer far away. It was here, above the capital world. The sky had changed. Once, it was filled with shining ships of the Galactic Council. Clean lines, bright energy shields, perfect formation. Now it was filled with shadows. Dark shapes moved slowly through space. Broken ships, burned hulls, human vessels that should have been silent forever. But they were not silent. They were moving. "They have entered the system," an officer reported. His voice was tight, controlled, but fear was clear beneath it. Inside the command center, alarms echoed without stopping. Screens flashed warnings. Data streams moved too fast to read. "How many?" a commander asked. The officer hesitated. then answered, "Too many." The number did not matter anymore. Outside, the defense fleet moved into position. Thousands of ships formed a wall around the planet. Weapons charged. Shields activated. "Hold the line," the fleet leader ordered. "Do not let them reach the surface." For a moment, everything was still. Then, the first human ship moved forward. It was heavily damaged. Half its structure was gone. Fires burned across its surface. It should not have been able to fly. But it did. Fire. A wave of energy blast shot across space. Bright beams struck the ship. It exploded instantly. Cheers almost rose, but stopped because behind it, more ships appeared. Hundreds, then thousands, all moving forward. "Keep firing," the commander shouted. The defense fleet unleashed everything. Weapons filled space with light. Explosions echoed in silence. Ship after ship was destroyed, but it did not matter. They kept coming. They did not change course. They did not retreat. They only moved forward. "They're not even targeting us," one officer shouted. "They're just pushing through." The realization hit too late. "They don't care about losses," the commander whispered. "They are the losses." The dead fleet crashed into the defense line. Some ships exploded on impact. Others broke through. And then they reached the planet. Inside the Galactic Council chamber, chaos had returned. But this time, it was worse. There was no control, no order. Leaders shouted over each other. Some demanded evacuation. Some demanded total destruction of the planet. "We cannot let them land," one yelled. "It's already too late," another replied. Chancellor Viral stood at the center, but he no longer looked like a leader. His face was pale, his hands shaking. "General Kale," he said, his voice low, "tell me we can stop this." Kale stood nearby, still calm, still watching, but even his eyes had changed. "No," he said. The word hit harder than any explosion. "There is no stopping this," Kale continued. Viral stepped back. "There must be a way," he said. "We are the strongest alliance in the galaxy." Kale shook his head. "They are not fighting to win," he said. "They are fighting to end." The meaning was clear. This was not a battle. This was the final step. A loud impact shook the entire chamber. The ground trembled. The massive pillars cracked slightly. Dust fell from the ceiling. "They've landed," a guard shouted. Screams echoed from distant halls. "They're inside the city." Panic spread instantly. "Seal the chamber," someone yelled. The massive doors began to close. Slowly, heavily, guards rushed into position. Weapons raised. Another impact. Closer this time. The doors shook. "They're coming," a soldier shouted. The sound began. A slow, heavy repeated bang, bang, bang. Something was hitting the doors. Not fast, not wild. Steady, unstoppable. Each stronger than the last. "They're breaking through," a guard whispered. Inside the chamber, some leaders tried to hide. Some dropped to their knees. Some simply stood frozen. Viral looked around. This was the end. All his power, all his control, gone. He turned to Kale one last time. "What are they?" he asked. Kale did not look away from the doors. "They are what comes after we thought we won," he said. The doors cracked. Light from the outside broke through. A hand appeared. Burned. Broken. Not alive, but moving. The doors burst open, and silence fell. At the entrance stood a single human, its armor destroyed, its body damaged beyond survival. But it stood. Behind it, more shapes appeared. Hundreds, then thousands, filling the hallway, waiting, watching. Then they stepped forward, slow, together. And in that moment, the Galactic Council understood. They were not here to talk. They were not here to conquer. They were here to finish it. The chamber was silent, not because there was peace, but because there was nothing left to say. The doors were gone, broken open, destroyed, and in their place, they stood, the dead. The first human stepped inside slowly. Its movements were uneven. Its armor was shattered. One side of its face was burned beyond recognition. Its eyes empty, but still open, still focused. Behind it, more entered, Step by step, no rush, no sound. Thousands filled the entrance. An endless line of broken soldiers. Inside the chamber, no one moved. No one dared. The guards held their weapons, but their hands were shaking. Some tried to aim. Some lowered their guns without realizing it. "What do we do?" one soldier whispered. No one answered, because deep inside, they already knew this could not be stopped. Chancellor Viral stepped forward. His legs felt weak, but he forced himself to stand. I am the leader of the Galactic Council," he said. His voice was not strong anymore, but it was clear. "We can talk," he continued. "There is no need for more destruction." The human in front did not react. It did not stop. It kept walking. Viral took a step back. "We ended the war," he said quickly. "It's over." Still no reaction. "They can't hear you," General Kale said quietly from behind. Viral turned. "What do you mean?" he asked. Kale looked at the approaching figures. "These are not the humans you fought," he said. Another step. Closer now. "They are not here to listen." Another step. "They are here to complete something." Viral's breath became heavy. "Complete what?" he asked. Kale's answer was simple. "Their final order." The first human stopped, right in front of them. For a brief moment, everything was still. Then, its head tilted slightly, and a sound came out. Not a voice. Not exactly. More like a broken signal. A low, distorted tone filled the chamber. The lights flickered. Screens turned on by themselves. A signal was spreading across every device, across every system. Then a message appeared. The same human face from before. The recording. But this time, it was clearer, stronger. "If you are seeing this now," the human said calmly, "then you are no longer in control." No one moved. "This is not an attack," the message continued. A pause. "This is a conclusion." The dead behind the first human stood still now, waiting. "You believe war ends when one side falls." The human's eyes seemed almost alive. "But you chose the wrong enemy." Viral slowly stepped back again. "You forced us into a corner," the message said. "You gave us only one path." Another pause. "So we changed the meaning of loss." General Kale closed his eyes for a moment. He understood now. Fully. "You destroyed our worlds," the human continued. "You ended our lives." The chamber felt heavier with every word. "But you did not end us." The first human raised its head slightly, as if responding to the voice. "We are not alive," the message said. A soft flicker passed across the screen. "But we are not gone." The silence was complete. "We do not feel fear. We do not feel pain." The dead behind began to move again, slowly, forward. "We only move forward." The words echoed with their steps. "Until the task is done." Viral fell to his knees. This is madness," he whispered. Kale stood still, watching. "No," he said quietly. "This is human." The message reached its final moment. You wanted victory. A pause. "This is what victory looks like." The screen went dark. The signal ended. The chamber lights flickered one last time, then steadied. The dead continued forward. No anger, no hate, just purpose. One by one, the leaders of the council lowered their heads. Some closed their eyes. Some simply stood still. There was no escape, no negotiation, no second chance. Only the end. General Kale remained the last one standing without fear. He looked at the first human, then spoke his final words. "We thought you feared death." The human stopped again. Kale gave a small nod. "We were wrong." Another step. Closer. "You used it." The human raised its arm. Slowly. And in that final moment, Kale understood everything. Humanity did not lose the war. They changed it. And when the chamber finally fell into silence, there were no winners left. Only a message that would echo across the empty galaxy. Fire, humanity never needed to survive to win.